think you can make me co-host. Yes.
We are going to Akure.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ms. Bilkis. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
It's good to be
Miss
here.
Bilkis.
Good morning. Welcome to the School Rewired Conference. Communication for schools. So since we're still few, We're supposed to have about 66 or 68 people in this session. So, but since we're still few, let's utilize the opportunity to just introduce ourselves real quickly. So everybody has 30 seconds to introduce themselves. My name is Ms. Bilkis, and I'm the lead consultant at Teachers Recruitment Consult. So I would start with Deumi. Deumi, are you available to introduce yourself, please? Okay, sorry, Dimowo. Dimowo is the name, not Deumi. Dimowo, are you available?
Morning, everyone. Yes, I'm available.
Okay,
so
please go ahead.
Dimowo. I'm a teacher and I'm excited to be here. Let's get on.
Yay, we're excited to have you. So the next person, and kindly mute yourself real quickly. Evelyn, please introduce yourself. Evelyn. Okay, so I'll just move to the next person real quickly, Miss Temple. Miss Temple, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Temple. I'm a teacher and I'm excited to be here.
I love your name, by the way. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next person is Oladosu Michael. Michael, please introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Oladosu Michael Sibola. I'm a teacher. I'm glad to be part of this session. Hope to learn more. Thank you.
You're welcome. Grace Paul, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Grace, and I'm a teacher, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, Grace. I'm happy to see your face. At least I'm not the only person showing my face. So I'm excited to see your face. You're welcome. Next person is Pelumi. Pelumi, please introduce yourself. Okay, Pelumi isn't available. Oluwatomiwa. Ms. Tomiwa, please introduce yourself. Okay, I'll move to Olakunle Charles. Can everybody hear me? If you can hear me, please just...
Yes, I can.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Olakunle Charles, and I'm also a teacher. I'm very, very excited to be in this session, actually. Like, very, very excited. And I really want to learn.
Okay, you're welcome, Mr. Charles.
Thank you very much. And I love the design in your office, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Charles, for your kind words. Next person is Sandra. Sandra, please introduce yourself. Okay, it looks like Sandra isn't available, so I'll move to Precious.
Hello, Sandra is available. Sorry.
Okay.
Good morning.
All right, Sandra. Good morning.
My name is Sandra. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, Sandra, nice to meet you. We're excited to have you too. So Precious, introduce yourself if you're available. Mary Felix, good to have you here. Okay. Okay, so I'll just move to the next person. Tessie, introduce yourself real quickly.
Hello, good morning. I'm Tessie Okukuta, and I'm a teacher. It's a pleasure meeting everybody here.
You're welcome, Ms. Tessie. Tiffany, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Tiffany Jagu.
Okay.
I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you too, Miss Tiffany. And I'll
Thank
take
you.
the last person before I start my session, UTB, I think. Okay, it looks like UTB is not available. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Bilkis, and I'm the lead consultant at Teachers Recruitment Consult. I would want this session to be as interactive as possible. And I would like for everybody to speak if it's possible, but if not, we will just try to manage the Zoom session well enough and also manage our time. So today's session is on effective communication for schools. This is not the first time we're hearing the word communication. Can anybody tell me what communication means to them? Just put your pointing finger up and I'll call you. Communication. Anyone? Okay, I would ask Sandra. Sandra, what does communication mean to you?
Okay, for me, communication is the exchange of information between two or more people, or yeah, ideas and interaction, basically.
Okay. Exchange of information between two or more people. Precious, you wanted to say something? Okay, so Sandra says communication is the exchange of information between two or more people. So she's giving me her definition of what communication is. So communication basically is the sending and receiving of information between two or more people, like she rightly said, but it could be virtual and it could be in person. So there are different means of communication. It could be oral, it could be written, and it could just be in different form. But for communication to take place, there has to be a sender and there has to be a receiver. I will give you an example. For instance, every day in our classrooms or in our schools, we have a daily communication book that we send home to parents, where we communicate what happened to the child in school today, what they ate, what they did, blah, 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 and we write everything. In most cases, we have parents that never get to open your communication book, but to you as a teacher, you're communicating, but the parent is not even responding to your communication. So communication hasn't taken place. In that scenario, you're supposed to look for a means to communicate to that parent. It could be that the parent is not a reader. There are people that you cannot communicate to them through reading. There might be auditory people. You might need to put a call across to them to communicate to them. So basically, that's a nutshell of what communication is. There has to be a sender and there has to be a receiver, and there has to be a response from the person that you're sending your message to. So I'll just go straight to share my screen now. Please let me know if you can see it. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Just send a message or just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Miss Mary, can you see my screen?
Yes, please go ahead. We can see your screen.
Okay. All right, so the first part says, hello, can you hear me? Ensuring effective communication in school. What is communication? It's just passing and exchanging ideas from one person to another. So receiving information verbally or through non-verbal means. We have different ways of non-verbal communication. It could be by gestures, it could be by eye contact, it could also be by written. So there are different non-verbal communication tools that you could use. Most times as educators, it's important that we master the act of communicating with our children with non-verbal means, so that if you raise your eyeballs, your children know what you're talking about. If you look this way, they know what you're talking about. If you look that way, if you jump up, if you sit down, if you're standing, they understand your non-verbal cues. So as a school, or as a school leader, your nonverbal communications are very important when you're communicating with your parents. You could be unhappy about something that a parent is saying to you, but you're supposed to just remain the professional that you are. Look them in the eyes, maintain eye contact. Depending on the scenario, you could smile. In some cases, if they're telling you about an incident they're very unhappy about, you should just be empathetic towards the situation rather than smile, because there's some communication that you don't have to smile about. If you're telling me how your child fell down yesterday and I'm just smiling, it means that I'm not taking you seriously. So for people to know that you're listening to what they are saying to you, you have to maintain eye contact, look them in the eyes, show empathy, respond to them. Your body language tells you out more than the words that you speak. So even when your superior or your subordinate is talking to you, your body language gives you out whether you're receiving the information or you're fighting the information. Okay, so we're going to, what is effective communication? We've defined communication, but there's a difference between communication and effective communication. Effective communication is more than just exchanging information. It's understanding the emotions and the intentions behind communication, behind the information they are passing to you. Some people don't really understand empathy, and empathy is something that as educators we should have up the top of our sleeve. It should just be something that we sell, because if you're not empathetic towards your children in the classroom, you're not empathetic towards your parents, then you are, I wouldn't say you're not qualified to be an educator, but you have a lot to learn when it comes to empathy. Empathy goes hand in hand with emotional intelligence. So if you want to be an effective communicator, you have to master the two acts. One is empathy, the other one is emotional intelligence. And communication has to be two-way street. Like I said, sending a message in your communication book daily and not getting a response or feedback from that person, you are not effectively communicating. You're just talking to yourself. So communication is sending and receiving, or acknowledging that, okay, at least I have seen your message. Effective communication is realized when a message is received and understood exactly the way you intend it to be. So every time there's an issue in our workplace, especially in the school environment, if you're a school leader or a school owner, by the time you start analyzing the situation, you would see that most time it's a miscommunication. So if at every point in time you're being misunderstood by your team, by your staff, by anybody that you work with, it means that you're not an effective communicator. I will give you a scenario. The level I would interact with teachers is different from the level I would interact with school leaders. It's also different from the level I would interact with my janitors. It's different from the level I would interact with my administrative staff. And it's also different from the way I would interact with parents. So the intention behind the communication has to be perceived or received by the person you're sending the information to. So if I smile at you and say, you look beautiful, it might be coming, it's almost like, oh, you look so beautiful, I'm expressing it. But if I look at you straight and say, you look beautiful, you're probably like, she doesn't mean it, she's just saying it. So your intention behind communication. Again, let's go back to the school environment. Sometimes there are certain messages that shouldn't be communicated in your communication book, especially sensitive issues about children. Sometimes you might need to go to management and say, you guys need to have this meeting. Or you might just want to put it in the communication book in a very nice way for documentation purposes and reinforce with a phone call or a face-to-face conversation. So it's important that you understand all those key points when communicating. Opportunity to listen and gain the full meaning of what is being said to make other people feel heard and understood. There are different ways for people to feel like they're communicating with you. If I just talk all through this session, I wouldn't know if I'm communicating with everybody here because it's a virtual conference. But when I started this conference, I gave people the opportunity to introduce themselves. I know a few names that I could call and say, okay, this person has introduced themselves. I've heard that most people said they're excited to be here. Nobody said they're not excited about this session. So basically, I've allowed you to communicate. There's a sending and receiving of information. When you finished introducing yourself, I had acknowledged that, oh, it was nice to meet you, that it's two-way communication. So I want teachers to go back into their classroom, or school owners to go back into their schools, understanding that when you're communicating with people, you're not the only person talking. I literally interviewed a teacher one day, and all she did in that room was talk over me. She talked over everybody in the room. And when she finished, I told her something. You're such a great communicator, but I think that you're not a good listener. Because she didn't listen, she was talking. So the fact that you talk very well or you speak very well doesn't make you a good communicator. You have to also master the skill of listening. And when people are talking to you, master the act of looking at them, understanding them, tell them, I hear you, I hear what you say. I might not have your answer right now, but I'm going to get back to you. And make sure that you get back to them on that. So if people talk to you and you hear them and you don't respond to them, and the next thing they're like, oh, I'm trying to talk to you, or I'm saying something, and you're like, I can hear you. No, you're not an effective communicator. You're an aggressive communicator. So take note of those things. Produce understanding and action. Then we must execute. I've talked about that already. I understand what you're saying. I'm taking a note of what you've said. I will do something about it in the future, and make sure you do something about it in the future. Next slide says the 7 C's of communication. We have confidence, consciousness, coherence, concreteness, courtesy, correctness, clarity, and okay, I've mentioned confidence already. Okay, so your information, when as an effective communicator, one of the key things that you must possess is confidence. You must speak with confidence. You must have a mastery of what you are saying, a good understanding of what you're saying. You must have, if you're confident about something, that means you're talking about a verifiable fact. In fact, when you finish talking, you can tell them that this information can be verified. Just like I will tell you right now that these tools for communication can be verified because I'm confident about what I'm saying. And once you want to communicate to people, you have to be conscious about it. There are certain communications you shouldn't have with certain people or in certain places. So you're conscious of the fact that if I have this conversation with this parent at this time, she's going to get emotional about it. Maybe this is not a good time of it to have this conversation. Maybe I'll have it later. Same as your staff, same as the children in your classroom. So communication is a conscious effort. Coherence, you have to understand what you are saying. You have to be on top of your game. If you're saying, for instance, this is how we teach phonics in our classroom, this is the phonics program that we embrace, then you should be able to have a good mastery of what you're talking about. Concreteness, bring concrete experience, practical experience items in your classroom, bring information that are valid. You have to be cautious. How are you expressing yourself? Just because you can speak big grammar doesn't mean that you're cautious, or because you're saying you're good looking doesn't mean that you're cautious about it. So the way you do it matters a lot. Correctness of information, I've talked about it. Clarity, I want to portray more points on clarity. Most people are great communicators. Some people are great writers. They would write you 10 pages of reports. They would write you 10 pages of messages explaining a particular thing. But as a classroom teacher, you need to be sensitive to know that there's some parents that don't like to read that bulk information. So what you should do in that case, what most schools have embraced here in Abuja is that okay, now the EYFS has given you a standard of assessment and reporting system. So we have the detailed report for parents that will go through everything, dot the I's and cross the T's, and then we have a summary report that will just go straight to the point. So for communication to take place, it has to be clear. And the best communicators are people that use simple sentences and simple English to communicate. If you keep using ambiguous words and you're telling your cleaners or your janitors things and they don't understand you, you're not communicating. Doesn't matter what grammar you're speaking, but if people cannot understand what you are saying, then you're not communicating. There's certain level of words that you should use with different people. It's good to have a great World Bank, but you should know when to use what and how to use what you're using. What is a target audience? A target audience is a group of people who are most likely to be interested in your product or services, determined by the demographical characteristics. What characteristics defines your target audience? When I was working on this slide and I came across this online, it was something that was interesting to me. Because if you narrow this down to the school environment, when people are starting up their school, they don't look at all of these things. Who is my target audience? What are the age range of the people that I want to attract as a school owner or as a school leader? What are their interests? What value am I bringing to the table? Am I just setting up a school because I want to own a school? What distinguishes my school from another school? If they ask me today, what's the unique niche that you offer? Would I just say, we run the British curriculum, which is a common set thing in every school environment that parents walk into? What marital status of people are you trying to attract? Are you trying to attract parents with children, people with husbands and wife, married people, or you're trying to attract single moms? All of these things are things to consider when starting up your school, so that you know that you're communicating. Now, when you get to, these things also apply to your online visibility and marketing structure. If you're going to do a promotion, for instance, people don't pay attention to these small details when they're doing visibility. You look at the age. What age of people do I want to see this promotion? What location? Is it people in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, UK, whatever destination you want? What are their interests? Are they interested in early childhood education? Are they interested in primary education? So if you go to the ages, if you pick, for instance, let's say you're running an early years and primary school, you probably would pick people between the ages of 22 to 50. If you're running a secondary school, you'll probably be looking at picking between 30 to 60. If you're running a tertiary institution, you're looking at 40 to 90 or 80, whatever the age is that you think that you would consider. But you have to be intentional about your target audience. How do I identify my target audience? Look to the current customers that you have. That's for those that have started already. If you look at your school, just because you go for a training and the facilitator is giving you clues on what to do in your school, before you come back and implement them in your school, please remember to think about who your customers are. Are they people that will be receptive to this change that I'm bringing? Is this something that I will have to pre-inform them first before implementing them? What will be their first reaction? These are things that you consider. So now it says, how do I identify my target audience? Looking at my current customer. Your current customers are gold. They are the people that give you feedback, referrals. They are the people that you should hold to heart the most, because it's easy for us to say we're looking for new parents, we're looking for new clients, but sustaining the markets that you have already is very, very, very important while you attract the new one. So you use the old people that you have to attract the new one. Look at your current customer, check out your competition. So as educators, we talk a lot about collaboration, but if we want to be honest to ourselves, we are competitors. The school next door is a competition to me. I need to understand what my competitors are offering. If you go and look at Coca-Cola and Pepsi are competitive brands. Then Biggie came into the market after exploring, after looking at what Coca-Cola is giving, what Pepsi is giving, and then they decide to come up with a bigger bottle and offer a lower price just to get into the market. So these are things that you need to look at. But once you finish evaluating your competitive markets, it's now left for you to decide if you want to be a positive competitor to them or a negative competitor. That's where collaboration comes in. So you need to also be aware that there's a brand that is a competition to you out there. Analyze your products and services. What are the services I am offering? What are we doing? What are we known for? When you think Busy Mind Schools, what comes to your mind? When you think Busy Bee Schools, what comes to your mind? What's that one thing that people think about when they hear Miss KK? What's that one thing people think about when they hear Miss Bilkis? Analyze your products and services. At the beginning of the school year, sit down with your team before you design your calendar. Ask them what activities do they think that you should do. Don't go and sit in one corner as an administrator and design a calendar and give it to your teachers to run with. Most times you come in and you try to micromanage them because it is all your idea. But if you sit down together and have collective ideas and put it in one piece, then you guys would have a better work together. There's something they say, together we do it better. If you stand alone, you would fall. So every single time you're thinking about your product, analyze your product. At the end of the first 3 months, analyze your product. What did we do in this term? What can we do better? How do we even make it better? Create personnel. Create people that can work in different departments. You are in charge of IT, you are in charge of early years, you're in charge of primary, you're in charge of marketing, you're in charge of HR, you're in charge of this. Create different personnel in different positions. Okay, so it says, as a school leader, you benefit from good communication by these 3 dimensions or 3 areas. 1, communicating with your staff. I've talked about communicating with your staff and how important it is to communicate with your staff. I've talked about communicating with your students in your classrooms. I even go as far as saying that it would be amazing for your children to have an understanding of your body language, what if you move your hands, what it means, your eyes, your face, when you stand up, when you sit down. It's not easy to achieve this level of communication if you don't have a relationship with the children in your classroom. So it's important that you have a good relationship with them. You love on them, you care for them, you show empathy towards them, and you communicate with them every day. How do you communicate with a child? Come down to the child level. Never ever talk over a child. It is disrespectful. They don't hear you. It's emotionally disconnecting. It doesn't connect anybody. So you have to pay attention to your personal, social, and emotional development of the child. Whether you're a primary teacher, secondary teacher, university teacher, whatever teacher you are, I don't care. But I know for sure that the emotional state of a person determines if they're going to learn. A child that is not emotionally stable cannot learn anything in your classroom, and that's a fact. Communicating with your parents. How do you communicate with your parents? As an administrator, as a classroom teacher, there are certain parents that would never read the emails that you send to them. And yes, you have to come to a point where you're a bit more flexible. So at this point in time, do you have parents that when you pass information on WhatsApp, that's when they would read it? Is it when you send them a text message, they would receive it? Is it when you call them? You have to do that extra work if you want to be an effective communicator. Effective communication is achieved with the right communication tools. What are the right communication tools that you could use? i.e., we have electronic gadgets, phones, tablets, computers, projectors, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, emails, Yahoo, Hotmails, video conferences like Zoom, Google Meets, online courses, and so on and so forth. So as a school, you have to sit down in your community and decide what platform works for you best. Is it emails? Is it Google Meet? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Whatever platform works for you should be your best communication means. Remember, communication is sending and receiving. So a parent comes in for inquiry as a new parent in your school, and you give them a tour, you've attended to them. Was there a follow-up? Was there a message to say, thank you so much for coming? We look forward to having your child in our school. That just registers something. They feel appreciated. They feel like, oh, this would be a safe place. If they are already acknowledging me, then that means they would acknowledge my child. So these are some of the tools of effective communication. And in this statistics, it shows you certain things that are bad. So it says good for and bad for. So emails, it's telling you the advantages of these tools and the disadvantages of some of these tools. If you want to send a quick information that is very sensitive, for instance, in a society like ours today, where we have a lot of insecurities, and you need your parents to pick up your children at exactly 1 p.m. for security and safety purposes. If you send an email, is that a good communication means for that issue? No, it is not, because most people will not read their emails until maybe after work. So the best tool that you could use for that could be phone calls. So different issues requires different means of communication. Some schools will say, oh, we're very good with emails, we send emails, we do this, we do that. That doesn't make you people any savvy or better communicators than the other people. No, communication is for the information to get to the person, and the person responds to that information. So emails might not be the good means for that kind of information to be sent across. So phone calls is better at that point in time. So when you look at it, you would see that sometimes collaborative tools like casual team discussions are better during brainstorming sessions rather than send your team a general email. There's sometimes that some meetings are not relevant, that you just need to send an email to your staff and just say, okay. There's sometimes that you want to pass an information to a parent and you can't just call them on phone, you have to invite them in. For instance, if you want to discuss a sensitive issue like SEN, to say, oh, your child has some threats of special needs, you shouldn't be having a phone conversation. You're just going to demoralize the parents. The person is going to throw a tantrum. So it should be a first FaceTime meeting where the person is seated, relaxed, and then you come from an empathetic point of view to have that kind of conversation with the parents. Practical tips for using, Okay, practical tips for using communication tools. We have think critically about your goals and objectives before choosing a communication tools. I've just covered that. Sometimes more tools for communications only breeds confusion. We just talked about that. Help your target audience to understand the logic of communication tools you use. Introducing a new school management system. You've trained your staff on it, how to use it. You've trained yourself. You should that tool is being used in EdVis, and this is why we're going into EdVis. These are the benefits, and this is how it works in your phone. If I'm going to switch from a physical classroom to a virtual classroom, then my parents require a Zoom training. I should show them how to use Zoom or Google Meet or whatever platform I want to use. So take your time to explain your channels of communication to your parents. If you have to do that all the time, that's your duty as an administrator or as a school owner. We're meant to communicate every day. You can never be tired of communicating. Become familiar with technologies that you plan to use. For instance, this Zoom is a bit different from the regular ones that we're used to. So when I got my speaker invite, I had to go explore it. I got in late yesterday. I had to log in, check, do everything that I needed to do so that once I show up here today, I am stable. I understand how to navigate my way. I'm not saying, oh, sorry, can I get back to you? Can I do this? Because I know it's a session and it has to be held. So I have to always do a dry run. So here it says, become familiar with the tools that you want to use. It is very important. What is poor communication? I'll pause here and then interact with you guys a bit. So my question is, I've explained what effective communication is, good communication, what are the communication skills and tools that you can use. Now, my question is, what is poor communication? Do you want to, if you want to answer my question, please put a thumbs up and I would call you. And if nobody is going to put their thumbs up, I'm just going to call randomly. What is poor communication? I see Joy Ekele here. Ms. Joy, what is poor communication? Okay, I'll come to you, Oluwa Damilola, shortly. Okay, I will just go to...
Good morning, everyone. Communication is when you're not... Hello, can you hear me?
You're breaking, it's breaking a bit, so can you go over it again, please?
Okay, I said a poor communication is where understanding is no longer mutual, or where there's no understanding between the teacher and the parents.
Okay, that's an example of poor communication. Thank you, Ms. Joy. I'll go over to Ms. Oluwa Damilola. Please unmute your mic.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. Poor communication is when it's the information being passed is one-sided. So an effective communication is supposed to be two-sided. So if, for instance, one person is just doing the talking, no feedback, no, even as little, just like you said, as little as emotions like nodding your head in agreement and all that. There's all that. One person is just doing the talking. That's a poor communication.
Please, can we all roll and clap for her? Please roll and clap for her. Somehow you could do that virtually and give her a happy face or something, just so we know that we are communicating. We're supposed to be effective communicators. We're educators, we're teachers, we're learning about communication. So let's communicate. All right, so let's continue, guys. Poor communication is the ability to convey message to the other person or a group in an organization like a school. Poor communication leads to demotivation of your target audience. So now, if you are passing an information and the other person is not receiving it, I am demotivated. Most times people leave their jobs because of lack of effective communication. If you are an effective communicator as a leader, I bet you would succeed. There's no how you come to me and you say, hi, Ms. Bilkis, good morning. You addressed me with respect, you communicate your point, you outline it, you listen to me, that I would not want to carry out what you're doing. Most times people leave their jobs, schools don't grow or get to a certain level and they're stuck because of bad communication. no follow-up, no feedback, not listening, just being rigid and Nigerians keep saying, that's how I am. That's not how you are. That's not how you are. You could unlearn everything that you know and relearn new things. That's why we're here. So communication is everything. It's everything in business. It's just everything. If you have good communication skill, you'll be tagged as a school with good customer service skill. Good communicators are good service providers, whether you like it or not. And always remember that as you communicate, make sure that your content is measurable to what you're communicating. If I'm saying that I'm going to offer you first-class education, for instance, I've communicated that point to you. What am I doing to achieve that service that I've promised to give you? So it's very important that we measure up what we've said to our content. Communication barriers in school can make it difficult for students to get the most out of education. Below are some of the causes of poor communication in the classroom. The use of inappropriate communication tools and techniques. We've talked about that. You could think that communication book or emails are appropriate, but they might not be appropriate for certain parents. So go back to your drawing box and re-strategize what is appropriate for who. Inability for some teachers to create engaging lessons. Are we guilty of some of these things that we're saying here? Students with unaddressed language or speech difficulty. I'm excited that we have a SEN session. I think it's either today or tomorrow. I'm not sure when there's the SEN session. So you could see how differentiation comes to play when it comes to children. Teachers always do one size fits all. Differentiation is something that we've struggled with. If you're a good communicator, you'll be able to differentiate what learning level this child is and what activity this child is supposed to do, and how to communicate or even pass a message to children between different ages. The way I would speak to you guys is not the same way I would speak to my 5-year-old in the classroom, or the way I would speak to my 5-year-old is not the same way I would speak to my 2-year-old. The way I would speak to 2-year-olds is not the same way I would speak to the 11-year-old. So you need to understand what language, what choice of words to use for the different ages. So if you've been doing all of these things wrongly and thinking that you're speaking properly or you're communicating properly, you have to do something about it. Personality differences. This is one of the biggest struggles, both in classroom and in the school environment. People don't understand that people are different. There are certain people that you would, or there are certain staff that would work with you. You just tell them an information once and they understand it and they're running with it. There are certain staff that you would tell them an information, you would write it to them, and you would call them about it before they understand what you're saying. It's individual differences. It doesn't make them dull. No, they're just different. They just assimilate things differently. There are some people that you have to show them an actual picture for them to understand what you're talking about. And that is because people have different level of exposures. There are people that are well-schooled, well-traveled. They've been exposed to so many other opportunities. So if you send them this, they understand what you're saying. They can think outside the box. For some people, you have to help them think for them to start thinking about their thoughts. So you have to consider individual differences. Some people are very emotional. So you have to know when to have what conversation to have with them at different points in time. Some people would literally look at me and say, oh, Ms. Lucas, you never get upset, the way you manage things, the way you do things and all of that. But I actually get upset. It's just that I try to manage it differently. So if you understand people's personality, you need to look at different personality, understand how they're feeling today. Are you okay? Do you want to take the day off? Yes, sometimes you have to ask your teachers that question. And if you need to step into the classroom, then that's what you need to do. For all of these things to be achieved, it's not one-sided. I know I've deviated a bit from communication, but it all helps you achieve effective communication. Because if you don't understand personality differences, then you cannot communicate effectively. Areas affected by poor communication. Once you're not communicating well with your team or your business, there's no good communication in your business, your productivity level is low. You have no culture because you have a divided house already. These people are hearing this, these people are hearing that, these other people are understanding it differently. There's poor communication here. So you have no culture. If you ask them, oh, what do you guys represent? These people are saying different things, these people are saying different things. But once there's effective communication, there's synergy, there's a culture, this is who we are, this is what we stand for. Who are you? Even you as the school owner or the school leader, do you even know who you are? So it's important that once you're looking at this communication slide, you're going back to your drawing board and saying, in one sentence, who are we? What is our culture? How do I even communicate that culture to my team? Leadership. Leadership plays an important role in communication, whether we like it or not. Communication is two-way, but sometimes it's dependent on how I communicate to my team and what my requirement is for my team. That's what they will give to me. If I am a leader that doesn't listen to anybody in my team, then I've shut down communication. Communication is already one-sided. But if I'm that person that is receptive to whatever you say, sometimes in meetings, people say nonsense and it doesn't make any sense, but I still acknowledge it and say, oh, okay, thank you for that contribution. We'll just put it down right now and see what we can do about it. For now, that's not something we're going to pick immediately. I don't want to kill or demoralize the person and say, oh, this thing that you just said is not relevant or is completely out of place. No, you listen to them. Your security man has a feedback for you that you don't know anything about. Nobody knows it all. So when you communicate and you listen as a leader, you become better, you grow, your productivity level increases, your culture, there's a teamwork that is going on. The cost, ineffective communication means that you have worked harder and still get less results. There are a lot of people here that have been working so hard, but yet they are making so less. One is because you're not communicating well. You're a brand marketer, you're selling this. Who is your target audience? What are their ages? How are you communicating to them? Have you reached them? What have you achieved with them? Do you understand? Can you see how communication can affect all of these things that we sit down and say, okay, or not pay so much attention to and say, that's how I talk, that's who I am the boss, I am this, I am that. Calm down. If you want to achieve productivity, you have to calm down. You have to communicate well. Okay. Okay, some of the problems that you encounter and solutions to the problems is basically what this slide is talking about. So the impulse to provide a quick response, definite answers to questions often leads to people to respond with a yes or a no without fully understanding what you're saying. So for you to be a good communicator, please harness your answer, think it through, like don't be in a hurry. If I come in here and I say, hi everyone, good morning, my name is Vicky, and I'm done talking, I have not communicated to anybody. But if I calm down and I say, hi everyone, this is what we're doing today, this is how we're doing what we're doing, I was neither too fast. Or if I come in here and say, good morning everyone, this is what we are doing today, you get bored and I've lost communication with everybody. So for you to become a good communicator, you can't be too fast or too slow. So you have to create a balance. Because once you're too fast, people don't understand you. And the next thing they're saying is, yes, ma, yes, ma, yes, ma. So in situations like that, it happens a lot in our offices or in our workspace. I would ask you again, what did I say? Did you understand what I've said? Okay, what did I ask you to do? So the person now explains in their own word. Half the time, they don't understand what you've said, but they're just saying yes, ma, because they don't want to look foolish, or they don't want you to shout at them to say, oh, so you don't even understand what I'm saying. Are you not a teacher? that. You have 20-something years of experience. You know the truth about it. Even if you're coming from Harvard, you still have to onboard the person properly to what your culture is as a school. You have high expectations because the person came with a lot of experience, but no two schools are the same. So you have to communicate to them. This is who we are. This is what we represent. That kills. This is not how we do it in where I'm coming from. Where I'm coming from. You don't need that where you're coming from. This is who we are. This is what we are. This is where we're going to. And this is how we want to get to where we're going to. So the person clearly understands what you're saying. So people most times will just give you incomplete answer, failing to edit messages, choosing the wrong format. Once they don't understand what you're saying, basically. Okay, people would also make assumptions when they don't understand you. People can get, most leaders are guilty of this next part, too much information. So people can, some leaders can come into your classroom and say, oh, why is she crying? You've not even finished answering. Why is this toy here? Why is this place not arranged? Okay, once you're done, submit your lesson plan. Once you're done with your lesson plan, do this, do that, do that. I've given you 10 things at the same time and you've not even assimilated one information. So you need to take it step by step and prioritize what is more important to pass at this time. So when passing information, I would pass all my information, but I'll prioritize how to break it down. Okay, I've observed this, I've observed that, I've observed this. Does it mean that this person would have to stay back in my meetings after school for me to address certain things that I have noticed? As long as it's not an emergency. Okay, this child is crying, can you attend to that? At that point in time in that classroom, that is a priority. So you're prioritizing your information so that you don't give them too much information and they don't understand anything. Same applies to trainings. When you're training people, it gets to a point where you've noticed that your audience have shut down, they don't understand what you're saying anymore. You go back to basics and try to understand where people are. Okay, do we need to cut down some information? Sometimes you prepare 60 slides for a presentation and end up just using 30 because you're sensitive to your audience, and that's what makes you a good communicator. Some people just keep talking without even paying attention to the body language of the audience that they're talking to. Same thing when you have parents workshop. Sometimes you see that you bring in people to come and do certain trainings for your parents, but in all honesty, you've not evaluated what trainings or what workshop your parents need, because you just see them lost. They're not even interested. There are certain things that they're interested in, and once you bring out that peculiarity, you would see that they're giving you the attention that you need. Spreading gossip, that's a common thing that happens when people don't understand what you're saying. And that's a common thing that happens in most of our schools. And once that happens, your roof is divided. Good communication builds and community building. So a good communication builds good community. Excuse me, give me a minute, please. Okay. Effective communication leads to active participation of individual in your community. Do you agree with me? If you agree with me, let me see your pointing finger. Excuse me. Okay, so I have one hand up, so I will just continue. So if you're an effective communicator, you can get your teachers to even be at work on a Saturday and they'll be happy because of the way you have communicated the message to them. So they'll be very excited because you've said, please, the school needs extra work from A, B, and C. Please, can you do me the favor just to come in? Because you're a boss doesn't mean that you should boss people around. It means that you should be a good communicator. It means that you should be able to get away with things like this. You would need them to do extra sometimes aside their agreed hours. And you have to respect that. It's outside your agreed hours. Or you would start your meeting with things like, I know that your contract says A, B, C, and D. However, we would need help with this, and this on this day. You've communicated. And once they come in and do that extra work that they're doing, it just makes your community beautiful. It makes you grow. It helps you achieve more faster than you've even estimated. Effective communication skills enable people at all levels of the community to work together to achieve a greater community goal and move forward on the path of success and development. Quote me anywhere. For your business to be successful, you have to be an effective communicator. Standard, it is non-negotiable. Effective communication also provides people with information, structure, knowledge, a positive environment in order to feel comfortable managing conflicts and setting issues viably, ultimately leading to growth of the community. We're still going down to growth, success, growth, success. That's what communication can do to you. Some people say, we're struggling with structure. We need you to come in, help us build our processes and structure, do all the documentation. I have schools that have done processes, documented, giving them all their beautiful papers. But because they are not communicating, they still don't have the structures and processes in place. So for all of these things to be achieved, it goes just beyond paper. It goes just beyond having a consultant come in to tell you what to do. Are you following through after you've heard the information? After this training now, are you going to apply what you've learned? Oh, sorry.
Grace, I'm going to have to end this session. We've got, sorry,
oh,
not
wow.
Grace. Okay, we've gone way beyond the time. Way beyond the time. So kindly wrap up. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you
so much.
All
well
right.
done, fantastic session.
Question. I would share this slide with Ms. KK. So she can share with the participants. So if you have a question real quickly. Any question? Hello.
All right, please. Can I have a question? Can I ask a question, ma'am? Can you hear me, please?
Everyone, can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma'am. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. Go ahead with your question, Oluwaseun.
Yeah, this is very, very good. But what is the problem where you come for such a beautiful training like this, and you find it difficult, your school find it difficult if putting this to effect, to use? What can you do in such situation? Thank you.
Can you rephrase your question? So after the training, you find it difficult to implement the things that you've learned when it comes to
when you share this with your organization and they find it difficult, putting it into effect. That's the question that I'm asking. What do you do in such situation?
Okay, you try to make them come for trainings like this. That's one. And two, you also continue to sensitize them. Growth is the process. It doesn't happen overnight. Is that once they come for a training, they hear all the good things about certain things. They want it how you pass the information to them matters a lot. So they should sign up for trainings like this. It's a continual, it never, always. Okay, Mr. Oluwa, is there any other person that has a question, please? Okay, I see that there's no question, so we could just unmute our microphone and say goodbye to each other, and I will see you guys again soon. Would love to see your faces.
All right, bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. All right, bye. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Bye.
Bye, ma.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye, ma. Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
thank you
For your
too.
time.
Bye-bye.
All right, Miss Mary, thank you too for helping out here, and have a lovely day, everyone.
You
All right, you
too.
too, ma'am.
Bye.
Okay, bye.